The OnePlus 12R doesn't make sense to me. It was launched not that long ago. We finally are able to talk about it. Actually, it was launched recently as well in China as the Ace 3. So this is technically the international version of this. Also, the R series is pretty much making its debut in the US market because it's only been available in India prior years. So the biggest thing I'll probably say is this. If you've never heard of the R series from OnePlus, no surprise there, and that's because this is the first time OnePlus is bringing it. And the reason it doesn't make sense to me because this should have been here a long time ago. This is not something that we should be getting in 2024 or at least starting, but I will say that I'm very happy that we have it now. And I'm really interested to see if this will make sense to you, because when we look at what the 12R is offering us for the price point that it's asking for, it kind of doesn't make sense. This is TK and this is the OnePlus 12R, the one to beat for 2024. Like and subscribe and make sure you hit that bell icon so that you're always notified to whenever we have new videos on the channel. And let's not waste any time. This is the OnePlus 12R, again known as the Ace 3, depending on the region that you're in. But this is the first time we've had an R series in the US. And this is exciting because this brings flagship killer back into the conversation with OnePlus because of the price point of where this thing is coming in. The device that I have here is in a beautiful, beautiful, beautiful blue. And one of the things I'll say, definitely, I appreciate the fact that they made sure that it matched the color of the buds that I have. Now, this is the OnePlus Buds 3. These are also all going to be available to talk about very soon. But the biggest thing I'll probably say is this. The OnePlus 12R in the box comes with the USB-C to A charger, the USB-C 8, obviously charger here. This is going to give us the ability of charging at 67 watts. And one of the big things we have here is we have one of the largest batteries on a device in the US. Now, one of them I say because technically ROG still has the 6,000 milliampere, but this guy clocks in at 5,500 milliamperes. 5,500 milliamperes. Last but not least, we have a USB-A, USB-C adapter. This helps us actually transfer data from our other devices if we're using the built-in app to be able to transfer our content. And then, of course, last but not least, we also have the nice thank you card with all the collaborators that put in the work to be able to make this happen. Some stickers, as well as the access to the, I think is, yeah, the Red Cable Club, and of course, some quick guide and safety guides. Putting all of that away, we are really faced with a couple of things. This device, at the price point that it's coming in, is going to come in with some tailoring, some customization to make it fit that bill. First and foremost, we do have a larger battery. That technically fits the other way around. So they gave it a larger battery. That's supposed to be a smaller battery. Okay, I'm not sure why they did that. But yeah, that doesn't sound like a compromise. That's an upgrade. Second, they gave us a 50 megapixel primary sensor, and that's going to be one of the more popular 50 megapixel camera sensors with Pro XDR on the display. Okay, I know I said there's a compromise. I'm trying to get to that point, but let's talk about it a little bit more. So where the tailoring starts happening is when we start looking at the secondary and the tertiary camera. Yes, the 8 megapixel ultra wide is going to be powering this device. And of course, we also have a 2 megapixel macro lens. So for all intents and purposes, that main 50 megapixel camera sensor is going to be driving us really, really well, because that's going to be the experience that everybody's going to shoot for. Secondly, we don't have wireless charging, but we have fast wire charging and at approximately a faster connection or a faster speed than the OnePlus 12. That's something that is very, very nice. On the left side, we have a volume rocker and a power button, very nice and clean. On the top, we have an IR blaster at the microphone, microphone and a secondary earpiece here for the speaker. Last but not least, here on the side, we have actually the iconic slider. Very, very nice. The ability of turning vibration and silent by just moving this actual little dial on the side of the phone, not having to turn on the device. And then one thing you probably already have noticed is even though this device is coming in as more of a budget side, you'll notice that the curvature of the display is present on the front and on the back. That they carried from the 12. Last but not least, we have a dual SIM card option on the bottom here, a microphone, a USB-C, a bottom firing speaker, and of course 5G compatibility on T-Mobile, at least in the US for me, has been crazy fast. Of course, if we marry that to that beautiful large 6.78-inch display, now this one's running at 120 Hertz, of course, and gives us the ability of enjoying all those AMOLED colors that we get here with this display. Fingerprint sensor, as you saw in display, and of course the front-facing camera is a 16 megapixel camera. Now, the configuration that we have in here can go all the way up to 16 gigs of RAM as well as 256 gigs of internal storage. As I mentioned to you guys before, Oxygen OS 14 on top of Android 14 launching with this device, 5,500 milliampere battery, beautiful, the OnePlus 12R, and of course 256 gigs of internal storage, which I've used about 94 gigabytes of that already. Now, as far as the actual processor, this is where it kind of gets a little bit confusing again. I'm expecting a 7 series processor. I'm expecting a mid-range experience processor for the price that this is coming in, but we're getting the Snapdragon 8 Gen 2. arguably one of the better performing processors within the last generation, let's say 10 years even, because of the way it actually performs as far as the manufacturing and also the ability of managing heat. So performance, heat issues here, no problem. And of course, definitely going to be lasting you a long time with that 5500 milliamp hour battery, because not only can you charge it fast, but you can also kind of get it back up running and enjoy it for a long time. We talked about the cameras on the back, again, 58:2 and 16 on the front, Android 14 under the hood. Now that means, of course, customizations of everything that we had before, connectivity, sharing, all the information that you've seen before, battery options, as far as performance mode, to be able to turn it on. Again, the 8 Gen 2 is absolutely a beast of a processor, and I'm so happy to see it in this device. And again, last but not least, of course, all the customizations that you're able to do. You have the Google Feed here on the left, Google Play Store installed in here. Again, if you purchase or if you're looking into the A series, that one is made for China, so it may not have the Google Play services built in, but this one actually is international, so it comes with it. We have NFC, we have all the functional options that we need. Before I go too far, I do want to mention specifically more about the speed about this device. Let's go ahead and open up my results. And this is, again, the speeds that we're able to get here on T-Mobile, at least in the Los Angeles area before all the rain came in, is 817 down with 59 up. Now, I will say this was running an eSIM. This was not running a native SIM. I was actually using Airalo in here because we have eSIM support as well. So if you want to be able to run this with an eSIM, absolutely not a problem. And again, even on eSIM with Airalo, I was able to get that much speed. So that's the biggest thing. The one thing I will say though, if you are going to install an eSIM to do speed tests, make sure you get more than 1 gig of storage data, because the speed test will chuck through that whole thing if you're trying to just do one speed test right there. Especially when we're talking 817 megabits down. We're talking almost a gig just to be able to run this test. Now, we did talk about the remote. We do have that functionality built in. I did not configure that on this device, but it is built in. It's nice to see it again come in with the configurations that we have. Now, when we talk about the cameras, this is where it's going to get a little bit of an interesting approach of what we see and what we're getting. This device, because it's powered with the 8 Gen 2, when we go into video, we're going to notice that 4K 60 is a capability for us. But as you notice, as I said before, we don't have any telephoto lenses. I mentioned a main camera, which is typically considered to be the wide lens. And then you have the ultra wide, and then you have obviously the macro. Now, from an ultra wide standpoint, I can jump into that, but the resolution drops to 1080p. And that's because that's where the limitations. This is, again, some of the tailoring that I'll probably say. 4K 60 is going to come great on the main sensor, and the 2 and the 5 are technically crops on that. The 2 is somewhat of a lossless crop, 5 is a little bit of a digital crop. So if you jump into the 5X, just be aware that you're doing a little bit more digital. And if you do turn on any stabilization, of course, it drops you back to 1080p. And that's basically if you just want to be able to do that whole run and gun gimbal-like experience, absolutely not a problem. We have 4K 60 on the main as far as the back, and 1080p 30 on the front. That's going to be the experience. Pro mode, photo mode, portrait mode. Of course, under more, we have the options to be able to configure these text scanner, time-lapse, macro. That will use the sensor that we have here, the dedicated 2 megapixel. Solo, dual view, of course, long exposure, high-res mode, pano, all the different experiences that you have in here. But what I want to show you guys real quick is a quick sample outside yesterday, actually, because today is just raining really bad for us here. And that just shows a little bit of the capabilities you're able to get with this camera system.
Now, what I'm talking about, obviously, is the capabilities of the 12R. The 12R is positioned to be a mid-ranger in the price point, but the functionalities and the performance is definitely a flagship. They're using last year's flagship processor. The 8 Gen 2 is no slouch. It's capable of doing all of the things that the 8 Gen 3 can do, although there, again, may be a slight performance difference. It is light years ahead of what we've seen before. So what we get here is a very good functional system. Now 1080p is going to be the capping, but basically the highest resolution on the front-facing camera and the ultra-wide. But you can definitely see here that the guys are very, very excited. The experience that you get with the 12R is definitely a flagship experience. We're talking about the 8 Gen 2. We're talking also about the ability of shooting 4K 60 frames per second, as you're seeing here. Now, although the ultra-wide does not support that drops down to 1080p, but we still have the ability of recording this without any limits. This is super functional. And the ability of doing all of this on a device that comes in at this price point is just crazy. The fact that this is coming in the US market right now, we do not have any other competition that even comes close.
Now, as you saw there with the colors and the beautiful imagery that we're able to get out of those sensors, again, 4K 60 is going to be the best resolution, and I feel like the best experience that you get on this device. So this is going to be one of those devices where I say live and die on that main sensor on the back, because that's the experience that you're going to enjoy the most. The front-facing camera is absolutely great, especially for video or even to record a couple of little, either Instagram or something like that, a reel or a short. But if you're able to use the main sensor on the back, that will always work great. And one little trick for most people that don't realize it, yes, this is a super reflective display back, but one of the big things you can is see yourself in it. So to position yourself, to be able to use it, that's going to be really, really good. So without further ado, let's go ahead and jump in here. We're going to go volume 100%, and we're going to play our favorite song on the channel to be able to test out the speakers on the brand new OnePlus 12R.
Check it out.
So overall, very nice, loud, and of course, very easy to be able to understand. The bass is a little bit underperforming, but I think it's overall intended to be more of an experience to listen to, obviously, music, conversations, phone calls, as well as playing games, which this has been doing really, really good. So not a big disappointment. I think it's definitely punching above its weight class when it comes down to speaker performance. I see that what they're doing essentially is they're bringing a lot of the products or a lot of the features that we saw from previous generations. This honestly could have been a perfect OnePlus 11T that would have probably released at the end of 2022, or sorry, that would have released at the end of 2023, because the way it's configured, the way it looks like a baby brother of the 11 from last year with some really nice optimizations. Now, we do have that Pro XDR mode that we talked about before, and this is very simple. Like you can see it right there, even in the gallery right away. When you press it, you notice that some of the tones actually kind of become a little bit more muted, but this looks a little bit better in person. It's hard for me to kind of explain it on camera, but we're going to definitely look at the imagery from the camera production that we have in here. But when it comes down to gaming, let's go ahead and launch Call of Duty Mobile real quick for you guys. And we have that brand new gaming engine, or the game engine that we have positioned here on the left side. Swiping from the top left brings it in. You're able to change different profiles, customize it. You'll notice the music player is still sitting there. We have touch optimization, as we mentioned before, voice changer. The system status is one of my favorite options in here. But one of the biggest things that surprised me the most is when I was able to get it to lock in at 120 frames per second gameplay on Call of Duty Mobile, and that was absolutely fantastic. Now, this was a combination of two things. A, you turn on the 120 Hertz refresh rate on the display. B, you go in here and you turn on Pro mode, so basically Pro Gamer mode, and you have to turn on the stats here to be able to kind of see what you're doing. So system status launches this little nice function option at the top. You say the frame rate, the GPU, CPU performance. And as I'm showing you guys right now real quick with the gaming experience, it has not disappointed. This is something that is really, really nice. The cooling is absolutely fantastic. The 8 Gen 2 does a great job. The cooling system that they have in here is also top-notch, providing us not only the ability of lasting longer, but also the ability of staying cooler longer. Now, I did purchase a case. This did not come with the case in the box, but other than that, as you can see with the gaming experience, it is not going to disappoint. The last few years, OnePlus has been trying to figure out the architecture of their release cycle every year. Last year, we had the OnePlus 11, and that was pretty much the one device that they released. They lost the Pro moniker on that device, and from there on, now their number series are pretty much their best that they're able to offer us. Again, including the OnePlus 12 that just launched not that long ago. The 12R is trying to hit that sweet spot between the 11 and the 12, but still giving us that flagship experience, even though it's coming in at a price point that doesn't make sense. And the reason behind that, the reason why you're getting that impression from me, is because the way they're setting it up right now is this could have been the 11T that released late last year. It has the same processor as the 11. Some of the similarities in here, of course, the main sensor that we get there, we get the Pro XDR. Now it gets a bump in performance when it gets a larger battery, fast charging, all the things that we typically expect there. But this again is a brand new series for the US. The R series has typically been released. I've seen it before in India. In Asia, it's been referred to as the A series. But where you're seeing here with the images that I'm sharing with you guys right now, this is where it exceeds. This is where it makes sense. If you're looking for a device, for a device that performs great, has a really good main camera sensor on the back, and this is again where the tailoring comes in, but features a flagship processor as, again, last year's flagship processor that runs not only as good, but as cool, similarly to what we get with the 8 Gen 3 on the big brother, the 12. And they're providing it to us at almost a budget-friendly experience price point. This is the crazy part of the conversation, why I said this does not make sense to me. Now, OnePlus is known for using the flagship killer term, and I feel like this embodies what this device is. The 12R is the device to beat. Not because I'm saying this is a flagship, not because I'm saying this is the best mid-ranger or budget-friendly device, because of what it's trying to offer us at where it's coming in the price point, or at least the scale of pricing. This is why I'm using those terms, because it makes sense that that would be what a price would be for a device that's a mid-ranger or even a budget-friendly version of that. But what the 12R is offering us is an experience that we haven't seen from OnePlus that brings us back to their glory days, the ability of giving us way more than what we're paying for, and the 12R delivers. I can't wait to see what the R series does, and hopefully we'll see more R series in there. And I'm also wondering does that mean that the T series is pretty much out the door, but we'll have to see it till the end of the year there. The 12R is very welcomed. Thank you, OnePlus, for providing us that opportunity. And again, I hope you found something interesting in this video and maybe consider that the OnePlus 12R is right for you. Like and subscribe as usual. Thank you very much for the support. I will see you in the next video.